everybody, if you have something that you want to do, if you have a proposal to make, if you have an action, if you have an idea, bring it to the table. I don't care whether you're in, the communications committee. I don't care what committee you're in. If you've got some great action or event, bring it to me. Bring it to the committee. We'll bring it to the GA, and let's all hold ourselves accountable for where this is moving, rather than just asking one person to step up. And it is so, the press particularly is so frustrated by this concept. I mean, they're just constantly grilling me about, who's your spokesperson, who's in charge here, who's, and how can you expect anything to happen without that person filling that role, filling those shoes? And I'm like, beautiful things are happening all over this city because one person got a few people together and decided we're going to do this. There are no restrictions. So I think on the one hand, they're very frustrated by it, but on the other hand, I think that's where we garner most of our power.
I just wanted to say also, I don't see it so much as a frustration, because if you understand it as a process and that this is part of the process and you can expect criticism, it's not so frustrating, because you need to understand this movement and the duration of it. We're here to stay. It's not a momentum kind of thing. So this is just part of the process. I see it, so I don't see it as so much frustrating, because this is good attention. This is feedback, and we can transform that with how we respond to it.
And the one thing that they don't get in all of this, especially the pundits and the politicians and the 1%, is that there is a focus and there is a demand. And the demand is the people on the streets. The demand is a middle-class guy like me out marching in the streets demanding economic justice. That is the demand, that is the focus, and they are just not bright enough to get it.
Right.
Just to frame my question, I will be returning to Iowa State in the spring. I've spent a lot of time over the past almost 2 months at the Occupy Des Moines encampment, so I'm really happy to join you guys. But I'm kind of not in the know about what's going on at Occupy ISU. So I was wondering, what sort of things do you guys do for student outreach? What sort of issues are you guys kind of targeting? I know this next week the Board of Regents is meeting to raise tuition at Iowa State, I think $248. So I just want an open-ended dialogue about what sort of activities you guys have coming up.
So I want to get this out of the way. The first March at Occupy ISU, I skipped 2 classes, and so they have it every Thursday afternoon, and so I can't skip classes every Thursday afternoon. So I have not actually been able to go to all the meetings for Occupy ISU. I've actually been more engaged with the Occupy Ames movement, which are interconnected, and which is interesting for a smaller community to have 2 separate Occupy movements, but try to connect the 2 and try to engage one another in similar activities upcoming in the future. I know that, but I have been involved in Occupy ISU through updates and things that don't conflict with Thursday afternoons. And we do have, so Tuesday afternoons we attempt to spread flyers and meet in front of the library every Tuesday afternoon and spread the word about Occupy ISU to students, to try to again just spread the word, spread pamphlets, hold signs, and then Thursday afternoons again it's just the general assemblies for an hour or so. And as far as I know, right now I do not know of, and Anna, you may be able to help with this too, I do not know of any planned action for the Board of Regents meeting next week. But things happen very quickly among students. I think it's almost detrimental to plan in advance sometimes.
Yeah. There was a Facebook post today, so
yeah. The Facebook posts happen very quickly, and I reposted even quicker. So plans in the future happen very quickly, and that certainly will be discussed. Absolutely. And beyond that, I think what's happening at Occupy ISU is that it's, as I mentioned earlier, the enthusiasm. Students want to be involved. They want to get their hands dirty. They want to be involved in actions. And so when you want to discuss what we're going to do, that's when students are not as involved. and so I think we need people who are dedicated to the process of a movement rather than just action. We need both, obviously. And you probably need more hands for action, but the process is the time-consuming part. And that's what we need at Iowa State University right now to continue this movement, is to decide where we, do we want to, there's been discussions about, do we want to focus on specific concerns that we all can relate to as students in particular, or do we want to continue to focus on solidarity among the larger movement? Obviously they're interrelated, but how are we going to reach out to more students is the biggest question. And it's difficult to reach out to students, especially sometimes at large agricultural institutions. I don't want to name names. So yes, we would love to have you come to Iowa State University and help us with the process. And we have a Facebook account, or a Facebook page, Occupy ISU at Facebook, and Occupy Ames Facebook is the best way to keep in contact. I don't know if you're on that page or you like it. And then through that is the best way to stay involved. I don't know, Carol, you can add to that.
No, I just wanted to say that, yeah, John's right. I think at this point there's still some confusion of how, as being in the college and as students, if we want to address local issues or is this going to continue to be a solidarity movement? Because that's how it started, really, as a solidarity protest. But I had no idea this was going to spread the way it did and so fast. So I think there is a pressure now to have local demands and for people to come together to address that. So I think I'm really glad Occupy Ames formed, because it's a good balance. What we can't do in school, we can work together with Ames. But yeah, Facebook right now and it's just so fast. I don't know what the next step will be.
And we're always looking for new leaders.
Don't go, Danielle.
It's hard for students to stay involved. It's very difficult for students to stay involved. Excitement comes and goes quickly for students. So I think that's something to keep in mind, and it's easy for students to feel bogged down with what's happening and to lose that enthusiasm. And I think it's important to remember that this is a long-term duration and a long-term movement, and it's based on more than just short-term enthusiasm. And it's important for at least a handful of students to continue their involvement.
I agree with the importance of the issues that you're talking about, but to me the much bigger issue is climate change and what people are calling sustainability. And the connection is that sustainability is going to require economic changes in the economic system. From what I've heard, that was part of the subject raised by the movement in New York in the first couple of weeks, but I haven't heard it mentioned since then. And I'm wondering if that's the case, and if it's been dropped, and if so, why, or are you going to come back to it at some point?
It's in the Declaration of the Occupation of New York, and there's a relatively long list of reasons in there. And we actually were just talking about this very thing at lunch before we came here. I have a lot of issues that I want to see worked on. I know everybody does. But the problem we run into, the reason we can't get progress on the issues that we know are important, is because we face this systemic corruption in our system of big corporations and the 1% and the money that they can put into the process. Do you have $1 million to buy a lobbyist? I don't. They do. And they can block whatever kind of things they want to block, whether it's sustainability, whether it's good governance, whether it's, making sure that people who are unemployed are going to keep getting unemployment checks. They can stop those things. And until we fix this systemic problem in our system, we're not going to be able to address anything else.